Hello and welcome to another episode of Graphic Material. I'm your host Luke Choice, and on today's episode, I'm excited to sit down with Chuck Anderson, aka NoPattern. He's a designer, artist, and creative director whose work was a big influence on me when I started out. So I wanted to hear more about how he got his start and how he found success at such a young age. We cover a lot, including his creative path taking detours over time, but ultimately how that broadened his skill set as a multidisciplinary artist, and how he still manages to stay relevant and innovating in a changing yet saturated industry. So without further ado, let's get into a chat with Chuck Anderson. Okay, Chuck
Hello.
Anderson, NoPattern, thank you for joining me on the Graphic Material podcast.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. I mean, there was when I put a list together of people I wanted to talk to on this kind of podcast, your name was one of the top ones because for me, when I started out, early to mid 2000s, your name was one of those that kept popping up in all the magazines that I'd buy, like Advanced Photoshop and all that.
Yeah.
So, and it was really fascinating. There was this like young guy just had such great exposure and doing this amazing work. So it was always interesting to me to like hear more about where you got into design, like what, because you hit success really young, really quickly. Like, I'm curious how you really got into like digital art straight away.
Yeah. I mean, magazines were a huge part of that for me. You know, when I was in high school, I mean, to really kind of like go back to like the very kind of like foundations of that, I started getting interested in graphic design, and I was always into art as a kid. I mean, it was kind of like I knew I was going to do something in creativity my whole life for sure. Um, I remember more specifically though, my dad had a subscription to ESPN magazine.
Okay.
And I started really noticing a lot of the illustrations that would be in there. Here, hang on one second. We might.
You're good.
Yeah. No, I don't have to worry.
Just a heads up, Chuck shares a studio with a tattoo artist, so.
Okay.
All good. Perfect.
I'm trying to keep the frame here. I'll turn it.
Just trying to keep it authentic here. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I've got a great studio, and we've got like nice little ways to make sure that everybody's got their space. So yeah, but
yeah,
I mean,
the ESPN magazine. Yeah.
The magazine thing was huge. I remember seeing a guy named Cody Hudson's work in ESPN magazine, and I found he was in Chicago, and I really, came to love his work, and we met eventually, and yeah, he was just like this great designer, still in Chicago. But I think what happened was I was really curious, like, how did he get that job? Like, where's the connection made? Because in 2003, there was the concept of social media didn't even exist yet. So
Yeah.
I knew that everything had to have been happening over email. I was like, well, I just remember like stewing over this and looking at the masthead of the magazines and thinking about, like, okay, there's an art director. Like, it's an interesting job, like, and I'm probably like 17, 18 around this time when I'm really starting to think about this stuff a lot. It's like 2002. And I eventually got a job at a bookstore. And so it was a bookstore that had like a huge magazine section. And, now the magazine world is not what it was. I mean, there's a lot of them have shuttered, and there's not the same volume of design and art magazines that there once was because everything's moved online. But at the time, it was really kind of a conduit to that world in a way that I think like didn't even exist quite online yet. There were some message boards and forums that were really pivotal for me as well, but the magazines were like, I just became really obsessed. And I mean, like, it was like the design, like the computer arts magazines of the world. There was that stuff, but then there was, ESPN, and there was a lot of fashion magazines and stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, that was really like, I just really started taking notice of that. And I was really intrigued with that. And so that was kind of like my entry point, I think, into like a kind of professional world, even though I was going about it in like in the most kind of scrappy way possible, which was doing the whole guessing game of email addresses. And that's kind of how I got everything kickstarted in the beginning. How I eventually got so many magazine projects kind of all at once. I was just sending
Mm.
so many emails out to these art directors and saturating it.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of it's interesting to know, like, because it comes across in the way you do work is that kind of like real hustle mentality. I would say that kind of just felt when I was following in the early days that you just seem to be everywhere, and I sort of like then you became the guy I was looking at because I had just started. I was a bit later. I probably picked up Photoshop when I was 21,
Hmm.
and so then I was self-taught as well. So trying to reverse engineer a lot of the stuff I was seeing in the magazines was your work.
Mm.
So like just the way you kind of use color was really fascinating to me. And I find that even though, I look at your work, I've followed it for a long time, there is that thread that kind of binds it all is the sort of consistent color use, even though the work has evolved so much over the years. Was there a conscious effort to focus on color in your work, or did it just come naturally? Was it the kind of thing that you picked up inside Photoshop? But
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
I'm
I
just
think
curious how that, yeah.
I really think it's I think it starts with like a pretty simple answer. Like when I first got my hands on Photoshop, there was something about the gratification of like working so quickly and undoing
Mm,
things so quickly and like just experimenting. I mean, I I can't pinpoint the exact age I was when I first got my first hacked copy of
yeah.
Photoshop off of Kazaa or some, file sharing site.
God, I haven't heard that
Um,
name in a long time.
I'm pretty sure it was that. It was LimeWire or something. It was somewhere. And then
Yeah.
I just, I was so hell bent on like figuring that out. At the same time, I was like teaching myself Visual Basic, which was like a really early programming language because I was interested in like making little apps that were like kind of like a hacker adjacent on AOL at the time and stuff.
Okay.
And so I was just like a curious like mind, like
Yeah.
15, 16 years old, like having a computer working, or being at a bookstore all the time, like just kind of filling my head with like potential and like possibilities and stuff. And so yeah, that's really kind of where that sprung from. And I think being in Photoshop and like just tinkering and being like, what happens if I do this? Well, I was never worried I was going to break anything. Like
Yeah.
I never felt like, well, if I do this, then like the program's going to explode. Like it just didn't
Mm.
occur,
Mm-hmm.
like I feel like
Yeah.
it's kind of the way that we like help our parents now with like computer things. It's like you're
Yeah.
like there's like a nerve, which I understand. I'm very like sympathetic towards. But when you're young and you're just
Yeah.
being introduced to this stuff, it's like I'm seeing it with my kids a little bit now, like there's like a recklessness I think when you're young,
Mm.
which is really wonderful that you
Yeah.
lose a little bit as you get older because you're worried about implications and well, but if I do that or whatever. And yeah, I mean, I think I would get whether it was computer arts or like different Photoshop tutorials, like how to
Yeah.
put flame on text or
Mm-hmm.
how to make your shapes look like ice or whatever, and like
Mm-hmm.
using all these like old pieces of software like plugins and Kai's power tools, if you remember that. Like
No.
it was just all these different like funny kind of now like artifacts, like esoteric like
Yeah.
plugins and things, and it was just really fascinating to me. I was just really taken by the immediacy. I've always been like a really
Mm-hmm.
impatient person,
Mm-hmm.
um, for better or for worse. Sometimes it's like that's maybe where that like kind of hustling like attitude comes from because I just kind of want to get to it.
Yeah.
I also didn't go to college, so like I was just which was not like a conscious decision. It was like a financial one at the time. And
Mm.
then it was that kind of year off where like a lot of the snowball
Mm-hmm.
started to pile up. But yeah, I mean, it was just enjoying like clicking around to be like, oh, if I do that, then what happens if I do this? And I add this layer and I do that.
Yeah.
And I think that was honestly like rooted in a lot of superficiality of like, just like, oh, looks cool.
Yeah.
It's very kind of decorative, very aesthetic. It wasn't really like rooted in like meaning. It was just like a
Mm-hmm.
playfulness, I think. So,
Yeah. I think that kind of the time when, you sort of hit the industry was that felt like a transition of digital art at that period where it had started to sort of maybe get a little bit more mainstream and to kind of
hmm
and even the way I've sort of like evolved from, different tools, Photoshop, Illustrator, and then 3D. And it always just felt like, how can a tool sort of start to evolve your work and your thinking a little bit differently? Um, but yeah, I mean, for me, it was, I come back to the magazine stuff for the tutorials, like learning in the early days. Do you still find yourself hungry to learn? Are you still like pushing your work? How do you feel about design at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's so complicated because like I'll always love it. It's like it's really at the end of the day, like, I'm 41 now, so like the context is, started out when I was 18, and here we are, or I'm 40, I'll be 41 in like a month,
Mm-hmm.
so it's been 21 and a half, 22 years. Things have changed so much. Between then and now, the industry is fundamentally different. The saturation is never been higher
Mm.
as far as the number of people who are doing it. I mean, think about what I did when I was 18, like getting a hand coded HTML portfolio up and like managing to get
Yeah.
work from that. I mean, now you
Yeah.
can be like 14 years old with an iPad and kind of do
Yeah.
the same thing, and you have YouTube at your disposal.
Yep.
And then you could set up an Instagram. Like there's just way more resources for
Mm-hmm.
more people than ever, which is amazing. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. But it means that the contrast between like back then kind of pre-advanced, technology and social media, where it was like the main difference is back then there were way fewer ways in. There were a lot
Mm-hmm.
fewer ways to like there weren't these platforms to connect with people, and you really had to do your own digging and keep a bookmarks folder full of portfolios
Yep.
and go read magazines and be active on forums. And
Mm-hmm.
if you wanted to meet people, like that was required of you. Whereas now it feels like a very natural motion for us to go throughout our day picking up our phone, and there's Instagram, there's
Yeah.
whatever, it's all right there. So but if you were able to figure out a way to break through back then, which I fortunately was, just by like being really kind of savvy with emailing,
Mm-hmm.
um, it made you stand out a lot more. And I fully credit that to getting the amount of like momentum and steam and attention that I got at a super, super young age. I
Yeah.
remember being really proud of the fact that I had something on a page in like six magazines at once at one point. Like
Mm.
at the peak, I remember there was one month where I was like, I gathered up as a computer arts, digital arts, like Flaunt, this magazine,
Mm.
and I like ESPN, and like I was like, there's some like I appear in like all of these right
Yeah.
now, and that was like the golden age for me of like the magazine thing.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, but to your question, like I still love it. I don't actively pursue those types of projects so much anymore. I do on occasion for sure, like, but I also work in house at a brand at the moment, and that
Yeah.
takes up a lot of my time, and I feel very content with that.
Mm.
Being the age and having two kids and stuff, like, um, it's not like a loss of that like hustle, 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 but like that's
Mm-hmm.
exhausting when you do it as
Yeah.
long as you have, you hit a point where you're like, I don't feel like wondering where the next like thousand
Yeah.
dollar project is going to come from, or
Yeah.
if I'm going to have a big year or a really slow year, but then it's going to be good in December and I salvage
Mm-hmm.
the last 6 months.
Yep.
And so when I've been presented with opportunities to go, full time at places, I've taken those because I've also been able to keep my own practice moving
Mm-hmm.
parallel with it, and I've
Yeah.
managed to make that work, which has been awesome. Um, so yeah, and who knows,
Yeah.
maybe that'll switch and flip again. I'm kind of I
Yeah.
just always stay very open to the way that my career can unfold.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of definitely what something I wanted to cover was, how you feel about those transitions because I know you sort of the 2010s you did some more in-house agency style creative
Hmm.
director stuff, right?
Yep.
So what was that kind of first impetus to like maybe leave freelance and go and test that out? Had you kind of
It's the
just wanted,
opportunity and the money.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, simple. Yeah, I mean, it's not
yeah,
like rocket science. It was like
yeah,
at that point and when I met I took my first ever like full-time job, like going into a giant ad agency in Chicago here in 2015.
mm-hmm,
I didn't seek it out. I didn't
okay,
look for it. But I'd been freelancing at that point for 11 years and had a lot of success. I had done the, work for Microsoft. I'd done like all the Windows 7 work. I'd done music stuff
mm,
and magazines and Target and like all these different brands and everything. And you can put the best of yourself out there and
mm,
like give the impression that like it's like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. And it certainly was, and I was having fun, but then there's stretches of time where like that's not happening and you are
mm,
worried about, you know, even if you're not like worried about money in the immediate term, you might be
Yeah.
thinking about like, man, this is stressing me out. Like I don't have a purpose this morning. I have to like get on and
Mm.
figure out like who's my next connection. And like it just I think that takes a toll. And so I met a guy at an ad agency here in Chicago who took a liking to me, and we shared a lot of similar interests in music and
Mm.
design. And he was kind of building a new part of like an already established like mega agency, like a big global agency, and was like, I'd love for you to come on board as the design director there. And I was like, I just need to see what's behind this door.
Yeah.
Also, while I do that, can I continue to take on my own freelance projects, assuming that they're not directly like competing or becoming a
Mm.
problem or taking away time from this? And he's like, I don't give a shit. And I was like, all right,
Yeah.
sounds good.
Yeah.
So I was really lucky in that way, and I got to see what it was like to have a 401k for the first time,
Yeah.
and to get a paycheck every 2 weeks. And it was like,
Mm-hmm.
whoa, I get why people go to corporate America and why
Mm-hmm.
people get stable, steady jobs, even if it often is a bit of an illusion or like a false premise because you think it's going to be there forever. But like to get a
Yeah.
taste of it after being a young, like
Mm.
non-college educated kid who came from a pretty modest like background, like it was pretty amazing to suddenly have a sense of like, you know, of like a foundation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to that point, when you went into that role, what really felt like you had to offer that made you feel confident in taking that role? Like you can feel a little intimidated, obviously stepping into those new sort of like systems, and that's definitely how I felt like taking this job on Adobe was like I hadn't
Yeah.
really existed in corporate life before, and there's a lot of different processes I'm not familiar with. But what is it that you found was your sort of real skill set that brought a lot to the table that maybe allowed you to
Yeah.
succeed there?
Yeah, I mean, and there was successes there and a lot of learnings. I don't want to call them
Mm.
failures. I mean, in the moment, it
Yeah.
probably felt like a failure, but like in hindsight, like I was a risky hire because I was raw. I hadn't done that before, but like that was a little bit of the MO at the time at this place. They were hiring a lot of like this was also like kind of peak Instagram. Like you wanted to be a suggested user, and
Mm.
it was like heavy on like photography and like getting, it was just like it was 2015. It just felt like a very different time. I mean, and like, it's funny because we would say like, oh, back then,
Yeah.
and it's like, I know it was only 11 years ago, but like
Very different.
in the context of the internet and the way that things move now,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a different world and it felt very different. And we're all trying to like grow our followings and,
Yep.
all that kind of stuff. And so this agency was kind of being like populated with really young people who had limited experience but were super talented. And
Mm-hmm.
that was then being paired up with more old agency heads who had been around the block at different agencies for decades and could
Mm-hmm.
kind of like keep a project moving, but like infusing like a fresh perspective from kind of this new generation and these younger people. And I mean, I was 30, I think I was 30 when I got hired in that role.
Yeah.
And like, to see myself on like agency websites as like this press release thing in that
Uh-huh.
context was super weird.
Yeah.
But I felt really proud of it,
Yeah.
and it was a great experience. There was like, I remember day one walking in and just being kind of like, all right, like everyone's doing their thing. And like, you just kind of like, I don't know, day ones are weird,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I don't want to get into like all the, details of like that particular job and the people and everything. There was good ones, good eggs, bad eggs, good
Mm-hmm.
project, bad projects, but like the cumulative experience for me was really formative, I think.
Mm-hmm.
When that eventually my daughter was born in 2017, and I was really not feeling that job anymore. And I, at the same time, had been getting kind of courted by a different agency in Chicago. And he was really trying to get me to leave and join his place. And they made me a great offer. And I was just like, this is it. This is the time. I took a month off after I quit to be with my newborn.
Yep.
And in January, I started like, it was like January like 5th, I think I started at that job. It was more like experiential, like live event kind of
Okay.
stuff.
Yep.
Specifically, it was Nike in Chicago and like the
Mm.
Cubs in Chicago and Gatorade. It was a lot of like sports athletics, like live experiential kind of stuff. So that was really new too. and different for me, but I was surrounded by just like some really amazing people, and it was much smaller. There was probably like 20 people in that office any given day compared to like several hundred in the prior one. So it felt a
Mm.
little like more like me. Um, did that for a few years, and then COVID pretty much
Oh,
torpedoed
okay.
that whole
Oh,
place because we
yeah.
couldn't do live stuff anymore. And then that set me
Yeah.
on my own path until about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, and now you're. I couldn't really understand. Is it a music label you're working at now?
It's a brand. It's a brand called Ernie Ball,
Okay.
and it's like the world's biggest manufacturer of guitar strings.
Okay. Okay.
And then there's also another brand like under the umbrella of that called Music Man, which are like these just really beautiful, really high end, nice guitars. And so like I kind of
Oh, nice.
oversee the creative direction
Okay.
across both brands and work with a really tight small team and family owned company that was started in the 60s. And I've worked freelance for them for a really long time. I think I did my
Okay.
first freelance project with them in like 2009 or something,
Mm.
and just kind of kept in touch over the years with random projects. And then the CEO reached out to me in like late 2024, seeing if I might be interested in a creative director role. And it just kind of hit me at a right time because I was kind of like in between projects. I had done a really big project with a client earlier in the prior year, and then it was kind of a slower year. And it was also like kind of like NFT stuff had kind of hit its kind
Mm-hmm.
of peak, and I kind of
Yeah.
rode that wave for a little while, and that was kind of crazy to think about in hindsight now. And then
Yeah.
I could feel that kind of crumbling,
Mm-hmm.
and then when they approached, it was just the right time. And I had never worked on the brand side before. I'd only
Mm.
worked at agencies, so I was like, this could be interesting. And so yeah, I've been there for like a year and a half now or so.
Okay. Are
And
you
so
still
I
on the
continue.
tools a lot?
What's that?
Are you on the tools a lot still, or are you kind of just more like overseeing?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm still like doing a lot of the design. It's nice. I'm
Yeah.
not like sitting making decks and like, I mean, I do that. That's
Yeah.
part of it because it's a small team. So like we
Yeah.
all chip in, and I'm certainly doing things sometimes where I'm like, I don't want to do this, but like it's kind of it's part of the role. And I
Mm-hmm.
I I kind of see like, I don't know, to me like there's like something to be learned in like all these different opportunities that I'm
Yeah.
getting. And again, like having kids now, I mean, there's something about just having something that's just there. Like
Mm.
there's this job is there, and like I do like it. I like the people, and I still get to be fully independent. I'm in Chicago. They're not based here,
Mm.
and I
Okay.
just do my thing. I have my freedom, but I still have that kind of feeling of like I get a paycheck every 2 weeks, whether
Yeah.
the company's like doing really well this month or it's down or whatever. And it's just like that
Mm-hmm.
team effort to kind of get things back on track or come up with something new. And so it's great.
Yeah. I just was thinking actually, like, I know that I have a few of your books, so I was curious to come back to like, obviously you loved magazines and you worked at a bookstore. I know you do put out a lot of like the self-publishing, you
Mhm.
know, recaps of the sort of projects and sort of arcs you go through. Just curious, like, is that kind of all tied in with like that love of magazines and books
Yeah.
and putting
Yeah.
out your own sort of productions?
I think it's I don't want to say it's generational because I do think like I mean books will have been there since any of us were born, and they'll be there long after we're all dead. And zine culture and like art
Mm-hmm.
books is something that like really made a big impact on me early on. And when I think, I mean, there was a pretty specific moment actually. Again, this artist Cody Hudson, who I mentioned earlier,
Mm.
um, he was one of those artists I found, and I remember I found he was in Chicago. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. Like he's here too. And when we met, he handed me this little book, and it was like, the size of, it was like the size of this
Yep.
little like kind of notepad. It was like a little like 6 by 6 inch book, and
Yeah.
it was just kind of like a little book of portfolio pieces of his. Like he was just like,
Mm-hmm.
instead of just having a website, I'm going to print this out, and this will basically be a stand-in for like giving someone a business card. And like
Yeah.
I always hated like the, oh, do you have a card thing. I remember the first time I spoke at I mean, you had to do it,
Mm-hmm.
at a point. But I remember the first time I ever spoke anywhere was at a huge design conference called Semi-Permanent. It
Oh
was the
yeah.
very first Semi-Permanent ever in New York City, and
Okay.
I was when was that? I think I was 22, maybe 21. I was really young. I was the
Yeah.
youngest person on the bill by far, and I had never spoken anywhere
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
And after I spoke, I remember like talking, people come up and you're talking and stuff and getting all these cards. And I remember thinking it was like, oh my gosh, this is like gold. Like these are my like new connections and stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure that any of them actually led to anything. But it still felt cool to get it at the time.
Yeah.
But Cody handed me this book of his work, and I was like, man, the other way around as an artist, like I think like that's like what an amazing thing to like hand someone a book. So
Yeah.
I actually got the name of the printer he used, and I used that same printer to make my first book. And it was just that. It was a kind of like still like a sort of snapshot of my portfolio at the time, which included like a mix of some client projects and some personal things. And I put up an online store, which was like so much work. I mean, you have no idea how hard it was to do
Mm.
that in
Yeah.
2005. I
Yeah.
mean, we're talking like you think, I mean, yeah,
It's all built
Shopify,
in now. Yeah.
Shopify came what like
Yeah.
12 years later or something.
Yeah.
I had to open a bank account with a very specific bank in California. I had to have a family friend help me like
Yeah.
tie the back end to this. Like if someone wanted a refund, I had to go in and manually type in their credit card number. I mean, it was a lot of work,
Yeah.
but it really also helped me learn how to be entrepreneurial and
Mm-hmm.
to like I don't know interact with people
Mm.
and help set expectations for myself and know what if like even like knowing what it looks like in your head saying, oh, I'll get 500 posters made, 500 prints. That doesn't
Yep.
sound like that much,
Yeah.
and then it shows up and you're like, ooh, 500 is kind of a lot of something. And then you put it for sale. And like, I was really fortunate because I would sell a lot of stuff because no one else was running an online store. And
Yeah.
I ran like a pretty tight ship with it. But
Mm-hmm.
after the initial burst, and I'd sell like 80, 90, 100 prints and I'd be like, God damn, I got like 400 of these things left.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
then it would be a slow trickle and then it would slow down. I'm like, all right, now I have like 372 of these left. Like, that's a lot to try and figure out how to move. And do I do a sale? Does that look bad? Like, so it
Yeah.
was like, it was a lot of learning, but it was really important, I think, for that time.
Yeah. I mean, I dabbled in the online store thing a couple of times and just hated it. Like, I
Mm.
just knew that wasn't in my kind of like focus, and I just let it go pretty quickly
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
I couldn't stick at it. Just the kind of like trying to manage work and do that separately, and realizing that a lot of like more of the money was coming through client projects, and the kind of
Mm.
focus was on the print sales, and they just weren't really like actually
Yeah.
profiting, and it was really hard, like a lot of effort to get that
Yeah.
going.
I also think artists tend to get like overexcited
Yeah.
and try to make too big of a thing, like coming soon. Like I don't mean to be like negative, but it's like no one cares. Like
Yeah.
you're competing with everyone else's attention. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to say no one cares. People care, but like I mean like no one cares as much as you think they do. The way you're like building this up,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're like really sort of like a particular upper echelon of like of artist, and so like you have to do it for yourself and you have to keep it small and you have to assume you're going to lose a little money and you have to do it for a
Yeah.
reason bigger than like selling out of your edition of like 100. If you're
Mm-hmm.
like make 10 of something, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to
Yeah.
sell. It's hard to sell one of something to somebody, let alone
Yeah.
sell 250 of
Yeah.
something. It's
Yeah.
expensive and tricky to ship and not everyone has wall space. And
Yeah.
it to me is why like a book solves that, even with like over a shirt. Like
Mm-hmm.
shirts move like easily because everyone can wear a shirt, but like not everyone needs a shirt or wants to buy the one specific shirt in the color that you made it. But a book is like everyone wants books. Everyone will buy another book, put it on their shelf, whatever. So I don't know, I've had great luck with all the zines and books I've made over the years. I think people really
Yeah.
love the tactility of that.
Yeah. And I agree. Like, I love buying James Jean prints, but then it's like, hundreds of dollars to get them framed again as well.
I
So it's
have the
kind of
one
like,
behind you right now. I have both of those.
yeah, yeah, I've got too many. I'm like, had to stop buying them. But yeah, I feel like books are one of those things where it was a great way for me to support artists that I really like,
Yeah.
appreciated, and it was a great way to just sort of show up. So
Yeah, for sure. But then to what end? Like they're sitting in a tube in my basement right now.
yeah.
Like so many of those prints I bought. I'm glad I supported the artist, but I
Oh
bought
no,
it
I'm saying like the
without.
books were a great way.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
the books are
exactly.
so much
Yeah,
easier because then it goes
yeah,
in the bookshelf, you pull them out,
yep,
look at them, and then,
yep,
it's just that sort of like token of appreciation for like
for
people that
sure. Yeah, yeah,
inspire you.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yep. The print thing
But
is
yeah, the
tough
prints are all
because
sitting in the basement. Like,
yeah, and it's unfortunate. And like I still have prints I've bought. There was like at the time I'm like, oh, I love this, and been 10 years and it's still rolled up in a cardboard tube. And I'm like, do
Yeah,
I
I mean
throw
this
this
one here,
away?
the tattoo flash one from James Jean, they were in a tube for like at least 8 years, I would say,
Yeah.
where I finally got them like framed. And
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, I mean it's just that's a good example of someone who does prints at such a high standard that it makes it like an event every time they drop, and
Yeah.
he
I
just
mean,
does it
James is
so
like,
well. Like
yeah,
that's the
his
level. Yeah,
yeah, for sure. But he's got an operation going. He's not like,
yeah,
sitting there like Shopify order comes in, print out the label. I mean, it's a
yeah.
different. The person that I met and talked to early on that really had an impact on the way I kind of started thinking about that was Scott Hansen, ISO 50,
Okay,
uh,
yeah.
Tyco. He
Mm,
he ran an online store similar, eventually to what I had been doing, and he was just like he had all these different posters. And there's a difference too, saying a print versus a poster. You say a poster and it's like you can charge
mm,
$20 for it and
yep,
move at scale, versus having a print edition of 15 where they're like $300 a piece and you really need a particular buyer and all that stuff. And but if you do that scale thing, then you're like, well, do I want all the shipping supplies here? And
mm-hmm,
so he eventually, I remember talking to him, he's like, dude, you're still doing that all by yourself? Like, I just moved all that off to like this company that just like it gets the orders and then I just get paid out.
yeah,
I was just like, oh, that sounds nice. So I eventually connected with a company when I lived in Michigan for a few years that basically I dropped all my stock off. I took everything I had,
mm,
they plugged in their system. When an order came in, it got forwarded to them and they just handled
yeah,
it for a while, which was great.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
eventually you're just like, oh, I gotta go to the post office, like, and you just like, I don't want to do that. There's
yeah.
nothing
And
fun
I
about
had,
that.
yeah, I had thought like if I was ever to do it, it would be something like that, just like getting a distribution lined up
Mhm.
and sort of
Yeah.
handling all that stuff. But
Yeah.
there's so many sites these days that the endless kind of emails I get about, hey, we're selling prints and want to upload all your artwork to our site, and
Oh yeah. I mean,
yeah,
now
I
there's
mean,
so many print on demand things with like a million artists on it, and it's
yeah,
like, what makes my store more special than that? Well, I can control the platform and the exact product, and that's great, but like you're just still competing with so many other people. I still do it. I mean, I still have my store now, my shop.nopattern.com, and I have the zines that I make on there, and I put some art pieces on there that, to my surprise, have sold like for quite a lot of money. I mean, relatively
mm,
speaking to what I'd sold before. And so I'm always kind of like, okay, like there's still like I feel really lucky to have an audience that even if I go quiet for a while, like if I
yeah,
put something up, people will go check it out. And so I go through waves of like remembering, oh, I have that. I should really be, I am grateful to have it, but I should take advantage of that more because I'm just like
mm,
throwing away, but then, I'm so ADHD, like I'll just get on some other track or like whatever. But I do have like a good rhythm with some ideas and like the zines and all that stuff, and a printer that I've worked with a couple times that I like. And I think it's about creating like something that's like sustainable for yourself to actually do and realistic,
mm-hmm,
um, and not make it into like needing to be this big thing. I think a lot of art, like graphic designers, are too fussy and like just too concerned about like, just like getting in there with the loop and like, oh, like I used this never before seen thing and it's got this special, all these bells and whistles, and like,
yeah,
and it gets in the way of like ever shipping and like
yeah,
getting just done. And I don't know, like I guess it's like kind of a background with like punk and hardcore stuff, but like I'm just really drawn to
mm.
like just like this is my mouse pad, the Sarah Gomez book that I have. It's a museum
Yeah,
catalog from when
mine's
I was
just
a
I got a
kid.
notebook pad as well.
And I just like this book, this size catalog
Yeah,
right here is like my I love this so much. And so
yeah,
I'm like, I can make these all day. You just got to give yourself a concept, a reasonable quantity, set a budget, and then do the thing.
yeah,
Expect to lose all the money and give them away, and then say they're sold out.
yeah,
Like, but I think we overthink it and get in our own way, and it's hard
yeah,
to do that a lot of
yeah.
times.
And like, there's so much talk these days about what will be, scarcity and people sort of longing for more analog,
Hmm.
tangible, artifacts. So I think like I could see the zines and the books becoming so much more popular again. I think when people really kind of want to have that, um, when we're all just scrolling past so quickly, and that was what was beautiful about the early days when you had to wait each month for the magazine to come out and see what someone had made, or go and check and see if their website had been updated. That
Yeah.
like there is that
That's
kind of yeah,
Man, yeah. I mean, even websites, this is kind of like, when's the last time you really went and updated your website? Because it just feels
yeah,
like no, unfortunately, it feels like unless it's something really special that like everyone's just looking at this stuff on Instagram, which is kind of a defeated feeling.
mm,
Uh, and but the time it takes to like get your portfolio images together and then update it, and then you're like, cool, now what? And
yeah,
it's not that it's not worth doing, and I don't mean to sound like pessimistic or like, even God forbid I sound nihilistic about these things, like it doesn't matter, but
yeah,
at the same time, I mean, it is, yeah, it's a lot of work, and I think we have more noise than ever to sort through, and it's exhausting to promote yourself.
yeah,
You feel like you're working. It's very like a it just I just feel like designers now, again, like back to the saturation, there's so many people doing it. It's just like this Sisyphus thing of like we're all just pushing our own boulders up this hill, and it's our work and portfolio, and we're trying to get everyone's attention, but like so are there's like a row of them. There's like
yeah.
thousands of us.
Yeah,
Like
and
doing
like
that stuff.
when your work didn't necessarily get the attention earlier before social media, it wasn't necessarily an indictment of the work itself. It was just the nature of like, oh, maybe this didn't get any exposure because it was hard to get. Whereas
Hmm.
like now you're sort of competing with this algorithm to see if it's like resonating. And also when we, definitely built our followership on Instagram and places like that, that was kind of what was driving it, was great artwork and people were
Hmm.
there. And now it's changed to this other thing that kind of,
Yeah,
is
content.
outside of
Yeah.
what we sort of set out to do, and trying to like play that game is difficult and still making it relevant to who we are as
Hmm.
creatives.
Yeah.
So do you see yourself sort of pivoting in the way you present your work and what you make, or you just stay true to like
And
what
I've
you want to
honestly
make?
thought a lot I've literally thought about like removing my entire portfolio altogether and having like a really simple, like almost bio on there, and then like moving everything into some kind of like really streamlined archive to just give you like a snapshot of like, some projects I've done. My I can't say that, I don't know, I'm like really realistic, like, and also pretty honest when I talk about this stuff. Like I can tell you the last time I got like just a cold email from like a new client because of my website. And
Mm,
that's like, it was, I used to wake up and like be like, all right, time to look through all these emails,
yeah,
which
yeah,
agency, which studio, which company,
yeah,
it's been, I just, budgets aren't there the same way. Um, the types of clients, what they're spending money on, it's
yeah,
different,
yeah,
and maybe I've not adapted, or there's other artists that are getting that, but they're more um, full service, and it's branding, or it's more experiential, and they have kind of experience with 3D and video and like, production that I
hmm,
don't have. And that's fine.
yeah,
I'm not aspiring to compete with that. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I have thought about like simplifying and almost like kind of, I mean, like instead of just like this, oh my gosh, like let's flex with all this work. Like I almost rather like strip it down and just have something really clean and simple. And like if, I don't know, just figure out a way to like minimize it and like take the pressure off.
hmm,
'Cause there's just, I don't know, how long am I going to worry about this? And when I'm like
yeah,
67 years old, and am I going to be like, oh, I haven't updated my website in a while. Like, I don't know. At some
yeah,
point, it feels
yeah,
like I want this thing to like die a slow death. And it doesn't feel like it is, but at the same time, I have thought a lot about like a pivot into presenting work differently or more minimally, or, like, I don't know. I'm also really proud of like the early projects I did. Like I know a lot
yeah,
of art are like, oh, that's not me anymore. Something I
mm,
did in 2005 doesn't define me, and I don't do work that looks like that anymore.
yeah,
But I have a couple projects that like are really defining of me, and really feel really proud of, and that were very like seminal projects in the big picture of my life and my career.
yeah,
And to scrub them, or to not like kind of uphold them in the context of my like portfolio, feels like a real disservice. So I'll never do
yeah,
that. I think it's about figuring out how to present it in a way that makes sense, like then to now. Because it's been a long career. And so I think that's what,
yeah. To that point, it seems like that would diminish, the path that you've taken, the journey of like work, and I think about like works that really stand out to me was like Lupe Fiasco cover, like back in the day. I remember
Yeah.
seeing that and like, oh, he created like some fan art, and then I was like, oh no, that's actually like the cover.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
like a really epic one because I remember I
Well,
was
and
a
it
big
stood
fan of
the
his music at the time, and
yeah,
yeah,
and that album has culturally stood the test of time, and this is its 20-year anniversary,
mm,
2026. And I don't think I thought at the time that it would stand up. I probably didn't think about it that much, but like it is amazing that it still resonates with people and that
yeah,
it's like lasted an entire generation to where now, like when I go speak, like I remember last year I got invited to speak to like a huge group of high school students from the district, like the high school that I went to, and there was like a bunch of different high schools together, and they wanted me to come be like a keynote speaker at this thing to talk to students that went to high school in an area that I was from.
mm,
And I'm like thinking about it as I'm sitting there before I went on stage, and I'm like, you're almost four at the time, like 39. I was like doing the math, and I was like, these kids are all born in like 20, like some of these kids are born in like 2010.
yeah, yeah,
I'd been married for 3 years, and I had my career was 8 years old at that point, 7 years
yeah,
old at that point. Like they don't like their parents are the ones who listened to that Lupe
yeah,
Fiasco album,
yeah,
not and so I put that on the screen, and I didn't get the same like kind of oohs or ahs I might from
yeah,
someone who's like my age. I'd be like, so who knows this? And there was like crickets, and I was like, oh yeah, why would you know this? Or like the Windows 7 wallpaper, like showing that was funny
yeah,
because it just reminds them of like their grandma's house or something.
yeah,
It
yeah, yeah,
feels like old to them the way that
yeah,
like Windows, 95 would to me.
yeah.
And so I think, but I appreciate that. Like I contextualize my place and time, and I've always like really respected like young people's perspectives and ideas and like the way
Mm-hmm.
that they view design. I don't have like a crotchety old like, oh, these kids, they don't get it. They don't appreciate the way that we had to like I don't know. That's just like a miserable outlook to me. And
Yeah, yeah,
like, I try to
yeah.
just like
I mean, because
grow with the
it's
times, adapt or die.
yeah, yeah, and that's kind of like where we're at right now is this reckoning of what the future will look like for design, and my son, he's only a year and a half old, and I'm sort of thinking about how I would sort of approach talking about being creative with him. I don't want it to feel
Yeah.
like there is this sort of magic button to get to the end. I want to like understand how it is to notice the world around you and sort of internalize that and then input it and output it to something really
Uh,
understand to be resonating with who you are as a person and
yeah.
your lived experience. um so as I get more into like what AI can do and where it can sort of help the process, it kind of makes me revert back to more practical methods in a way. I posted something
Uh,
yesterday about this kid's book that I'm loving that's just drawn with crayons. And I'm like, they're all tools. Simple mediums can achieve like just as much resonance as
yeah,
anything else.
absolutely.
So, do you ever sort of like strip back the process? Do you still like do the things the same way? Is there any sort of outlets that you have that kind of make you think differently about what you do? Or you just kind of like have a kind of similar approach to the way you do your work?
Yeah, I mean now it's weird because no, I would say it's pretty different. I mean, because I have the outlet with the kind of like the day job, like there's like really just straightforward needs and deadlines and like a brief or no brief, and I have to figure out like what to do for that. So like I feel like that itch still gets scratched, like to just kind of like the classic graphic design is solving visual problems kind of thing. Like I never considered myself like a graphic designer really, like in
Mm,
that same way that like I think about guys like David Rudnick and Eric Hu and like kind of really coming up with like really true like full holistic visual solutions to like a brand and
mm,
like I'm not good at that. That's not
yep.
me. I've always struggled to wrap my head around things at scale like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say I'm like a purely like decorative artist because I give myself more credit than that, but I think I have been a lot more like it's always like bordered more on art for me than like
Yeah.
graphic design, but I still have like a design sensibility, and I think I have I think I have good tastes that I can help steer others or even more talented people than myself towards a direction to
Mm-hmm.
help get a project to a point that it wouldn't have without my fingerprints on it. So like to that end, I feel like my approach, like I wouldn't have thought that way years ago. You know what
Mm.
I mean? Like, and I do now. And so like with the day jobs agency, like kind of in-house things I've taken on, like I've had to put myself aside big time because it's not about me in those roles.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to learn the hard way a couple times for sure, where it's like this isn't the Chuck show. Like you're here to like be in service of like another company,
Yeah.
and you have to remove your ego. But when you're working for yourself, you don't, because it's all
Mm.
about you and it's what you want to do and your own promotion and your own control of your image and
Yeah.
stuff. So that's been interesting to navigate. Um, I have a project. Actually, I think I'm going to be sharing about it later today.
Mm.
Um, but it's it's a project I did with a ceramic artist here in Chicago and made these
Okay.
vases. And it was kind of a commission from an agency, and they kind of just gave me a budget to like do whatever I wanted to do. And I really wanted to make an incense. So I worked with a good friend of mine who
Oh, I have
to
seen you posting about that.
yeah,
Yeah, I was
yeah.
curious what that was.
Actually, I have. I can show you. Um, but yeah, so there are these
Yeah.
there are these little vessels, and a stick of incense can go right in
Yep.
the drilled hole right here. And
Yeah, that's
then
awesome.
yeah, so like all the artwork on it is work that I
Oh,
made
sweet.
and then print it and then had printed at this manufacturer that does water slide decals,
Okay.
which are like, for example, if you get a guitar and there's art on it, a lot of times like a water slide or like a mug, any like ceramic object, like if there's art applied to it and fired in a kiln, it
Mm.
was usually done with like a water slide decal, which is just like you
Okay.
put in water, the cornstarch evaporates off the film, and
Mm.
then it becomes like slippery, and you can
Mm.
take it on a unfired vessel and place it wherever you want,
Okay.
and then it goes in a kiln and then gets fired. And
Mm.
because of the type of ink that they use, it can hold up to the heat, and then it becomes, one with the vase. And so this is
Nice.
like a final thing. And you can get food safe ones and non-food safe ones. But
Yeah.
there's art, on the
Sick.
inside and on the outside. We made 50 of these, and I
Okay.
found this artist that I really love. So he handmade 50 of these, and then I sat there with my X-Acto knife and all these big. I still have all the leftover pieces, but hand cut, around. Not that you don't. Fortunately, you don't have to like for this flower.
Yeah.
You just cut like as close as you can around it, and it's on like a clear,
Okay.
a clear film that
Mm.
more or less vanishes in
Yep.
the kiln, and it's still on there, but you don't
Yeah,
really
yeah,
see it
yeah.
too much. But I think I'm like, yeah, when they told me I could do whatever I want, like I just wasn't thinking like digital at all. I was
Yeah.
like, I want to make like if you guys are gonna pay me and have a budget and I can just like spend it on stuff, like I want to make incense, I want to make these things. I'm going to go to the best t-shirt printer in Chicago and we're going to do a 10 color simulation print with like the craziest setup ever. Like they did this like
Yeah.
unbelievable screen separation on the artwork that I made. And like put this whole thing together. I made a zine for it.
Yeah.
Actually, I have one right here. This is like the newest zine that's not even out yet. So, but the project's called flower.jpg.
Nice.
And this is just like a little companion zine that shows a lot of behind the scenes from
Oh,
the
sick.
project. So it kind of starts like
Super Bloom? Is that what it's called?
that's the name of the agency that
Okay.
I worked with on this project. And
Okay.
so they just gave me like total open, like they just kind of whatever I wanted to do.
Awesome.
But like there's like the kind
Nice.
of good crop of the artwork, and then you get into me at David's ceramics studio with all the pieces, and then here's like a look at kind of what it looks like to start cutting these things up. That's
Oh,
enough
yeah.
graphics for maybe 3 vessels, so it was
Okay.
a
Yeah.
lot of trimming and cutting and placing pieces on. But yeah, I documented the whole process and I took photos and
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I know you do a lot of photography. Um, how does that work into your process
this
these
photo's
days?
crazy.
Oh,
This
that's
screen
awesome.
printing, yeah, the screen printing shop is just like it's so beautifully set up, and so
That is, yeah.
when the shirts go around on their giant press, there's certain points at which the shirt they cure. If you have familiar with screen printing, they cure a
Yeah.
layer before it goes on to the next one. And so as soon
Mm.
as like this one lit up, something about like all the paint behind it and everything.
Yeah.
I really wanted to capture like the full kind of scope of the making of this project, and then
Yeah.
also wanted to completely make each collaborator like a part of it so they get full credit by name in the project. It's not just like me and then I white
Mm.
labeled these people. Like I
Yeah.
kind of wanted to like make it a kind of almost like project amongst like all my friends and make sure people
Yeah.
know who was behind it. So yeah.
Amazing. What was the kind of first thought about doing that, really? Like, where did that
Like
sort of
like doing
concept
incense at
start?
all
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
um I have a friend in LA who I've known for a long time. His name is Rayhan. We just kind of got to know each other. He'd followed my work for a while and was someone who'd like hit me up or DM me and we'd been connected. And then kind of like the early early like kind of NFT days, there was this community called FWB or Friends with Benefits that was like this
Okay.
kind of DAO, this big Discord group that I was kind of getting involved with, and it was really interesting. I mean, it really was super interesting, and that's kind of where he and I started talking more. But he has a family-owned incense company,
Okay.
him and his mom, and he'd always been like, "Hey, if you ever want to do an incense, let me know." And I was like, "That'd be really cool." Thinking about like a scent. It was a
Yeah.
very different part of my brain to have to use.
Mm.
So it kind of started there. You know, we had talked about this for a while, and then so it was already like planted in my head a little bit, the idea of incense. And then from there I was like, what else would we do? So it's like naturally like an incense holder, and
Mm-hmm.
then like, well, let's do a t-shirt because everyone likes a t-shirt, and
Yeah.
then make a zine because I just love that. And the zine's actually free, so you could literally go on the site and just add it to your cart
Okay.
and just pay a couple bucks for shipping. I really wanted people to just be able to have it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, just like really create this like complete thought around, you know, this idea I had of, yeah, just flower.jpg really stuck in my head as a title. And I started coming up with different visual ideas for it. And like it was super fun to drive all the way out to his studio and like look at different forms. And
Mm.
I don't know, if I guess if I had to say like my overall like creative practice and me as like an artist, if it's going in any direction, it's like there's a little bit of slowing down happening like
Mm.
by the project. And like this project took months and months and
Mm.
months and months. Like it was a slow burn. It was really awesome to see it all kind of come together in the end. And I
Yeah.
think you know, just like I like the idea of not posting much on like, you know, if you just think about the Instagram analogy, like not posting much on main, but then finally
Mm.
posting something that's like, oh, I've been working, just been behind the scenes. I'm not just like
Yeah.
shooting stuff off all the time. So
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that.
It always felt like to me that it was this kind of glacier effect of there's so much going on underneath, and you're only sort of seeing like the tiny
Yeah.
amount at the top. And
Yeah.
that was the frustrating part for me with a lot of the work I was doing, where it was also, whether it was embargoed by certain clients or I did a global rebrand that just kind of never went anywhere. It was weird to
Mhm.
dedicate so
No.
much time, and it just
Oh
didn't.
man. Yeah.
The kind of like deflated sense of like accomplishment there was really hard to struggle with when,
Yeah.
it is all about like getting the work to connect with people in the
Yeah.
end.
And when it
And
doesn't, it's deflating and feels
yeah,
like, what did I do that for?
yeah, when you're proud of something, you want it to actually be, um, out there and get like good feedback. And when you don't, it just kind of like, it's tough to deal with sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when you talk about that friends with benefits thing, it made me think about the kind of connections that you make along the way as a
Hmm.
creative and how they kind of can impact you and drive change. And do you sit back and reflect on your path as a designer and the kind of relationships made and how it
Yeah.
just kind of like, informed you over time? Like, how do you feel about being a designer? Like,
Hmm.
at the end of the day, how how has it improved your life? I'm kind of curious to know, like, how do you feel
Well, I
about
mean,
that?
it's defined me completely. I mean, I feel very, maybe a little less so now because I have kids. So like, I feel like my identity branched out and I became more of like just myself, I think, for the
Mm,
first time. Like, you know, so like you're a student and then if you go to college, you're kind of like a college student. which I didn't, and I just jumped right into my career. So like my adulthood feels like it started when I was like 18 because I just kind of like hit the ground running
Yeah.
and never looked back. And so like I just felt very inseparable from like no pattern. Like it feels like my identity. And not that I didn't want it to be anymore, but like or that I don't want it to be, and it's fine. I'm great. It's all actually pretty amazing to have like a name that's so quick and simple that has worked for
Mm-hmm.
so long. Like the fact
Yeah.
that I came up with that when I was still in high school, and that it's the same name I use now that I came up with like even before I start like that came up when I was still in high school. So it was like before I even started the career. Like I bought
I
that
am
domain
curious, like, where did it come from? What inspired it?
name. It was a little bit of like it felt kind of like reflective of me just as a person, and like creative interests were so all over the place. It was
Yeah.
like today I feel like doing drawing, tomorrow I'm like doing photography, and I'm like sitting in Photoshop doing design, then I'm actually
Yeah.
like painting, and now I'm doing like mixed media, and now I'm scanning the paintings in and breaking them down. And so it was part that, and then like like anybody coming up with a name, you like have a list of all these different things and eventually like sit with something that feels like what's best. And I don't know, it kept resonating with me. I was really there's a movie called Pi that I was really into at the time. It's like Darren Aronofsky's first movie. Is this
Okay.
black and white movie. And
Okay.
um it was just one of those times where I was like young, and I found this movie that was like felt so esoteric, and like no one at high school like knew what this
I've
was.
never heard of it. Yeah.
It's an amazing movie, and I'm
Yeah.
not even like a film guy. I'm really not. I'm like I don't really
Mm.
watch that many movies, but for some reason I remember watching that and being just totally fascinated with it. It was a guy who like went insane trying to like figure out like a math problem, and
Okay.
there
Yeah.
was something about like patterns in that movie, and
Mm.
it just something really resonated with me about that. And so I think the name like kind of stemmed from there, and then merged with that, and yeah, it just stuck.
Yeah.
And but as far as like the relationships along the way, I mean, yeah, very, very defining. I mean, like people like Josh Davis, who I met when I was super young, and I looked
Hmm.
up to him, in high school, and Mike Chena, Mike Young, like you work for them, like those guys
Mm-hmm.
back in the day, like, those kind of like early digital design days. And I remember in high school in the computer lab, like designing things and like just mocking up like fake like things and put like a list of names on there, and I'd like
Yep.
put those guys' names on there and then put my name on there, and like kind of like sit with it for a little bit, like kind of just almost like like those were kind of like heroes to me. They felt like
Yeah.
larger than life, and the fact that I feel like a peer to them now is really
Mm.
cool. Even I still like see them as very formative for me and many others. I fairly regularly catch up with those guys, and
Mm.
feel like we've kind of now grown up together in a sense. I've known many of them for 20 plus years and stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't sit around and get nostalgic about it or like feel wistful for like the old days
Yeah.
but I at the same time feel very grateful because design has been responsible for me very directly meeting like so many amazing people. And um my career has led me down like some super interesting paths and allowed me to travel a fair amount, and has been um given me like a real sense of purpose. And
Mm.
um I'm excited on one hand like seeing the way things are unfolding right now because it's so different and scary and strange and weird and bad in many ways. And I have
Mm.
two young kids that I see a lot of creativity in, one musically, one more like visually and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the future is going to look like for them, so I think a lot about how to prepare them to be
Yeah.
like really like robust,
Mm-hmm.
curious, excited minds that
Yeah.
when their time comes to kind of start thinking about a career, like they're set up in such a way where they're flexible and malleable enough to like kind of adapt to a really changing time, whether
Yeah.
it's AI or political landscape, climate, the world,
Mm-hmm.
career like landscape, all that kind of stuff. Like I just put them in a position to be really curious
Yeah.
people. I think
Yeah.
ultimately like the most curious people are often the most successful because they just
Mm-hmm.
can't help themselves but to like keep digging and trying to figure things out. And
Yeah.
I feel like that can stand up to like lots of things.
Yeah.
So I think that's that's kind of how I'd answer that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, spawning off that last question I'll give you, because, obviously in the community role I have now, there's a lot of, people wanting to enter the design industry or worried about leaving college. And what would you kind of impart on them at this stage about like the best way to sort of set you up to be successful
Hmm.
moving forward? Because, like you said, even just emailing, hustling back in the day, that kind of like set you up. So, what would you sort of lead with in that, for guidance and anyone sort of entering the market now?
Yeah, man, like I'm glad, again, touching on earlier the way I talked about the saturation now,
Yeah.
makes it hard. I feel like I can't give the same advice in good faith that I used to because I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure if it would work for someone just starting out.
Yeah.
It can't hurt. I still think, I mean, the most unchanged technology that we have is email. It has not changed from
Mm.
the
Yeah.
time it was invented. It's been finessed and like dressed up in like more efficient like little ways here and there, and like
Yeah.
like adding having I don't know. I mean, like,
Yeah.
like composing of the email, but like at the end of the
Yeah.
day, like I still type an email to a someone at something.com address with a subject line and a body, just like I did like when I had my first ever AOL account when I was 14.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
just not changed. And so one thing's for sure is like everyone's DMs are a mess.
Yeah.
I still think something like people just see email as like where to conduct serious business. Like
Yeah.
if anyone ever tells me about work, I'm like, okay, but can we move this to email? Like it does
Mm-hmm.
not talk about this on
Yeah.
this like unserious platform.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe that's like someone who's younger would be like, you can entirely do this on DM. That's fine. But like at
Mm.
the end of the day, if I have to fill out a W-2, I really do not want to do that in a Meta-owned platform. I'd like to move
Yeah.
that over, just like do that
Yeah.
on in my own email.
Yeah. Because I would even
So
add that, like, I've had kids reach out from college and ask for like help and stuff like that. And, there's been times where I've made the effort, answered all their questions, given it back, and then there's no response
yeah,
back. And I'm kind of shocked that there isn't that, sentiment shared from their professors that following up is just the absolute key to like staying in good graces with people who have like the opportunity to help you.
yeah, absolutely. No, I know what you mean. I mean, I would just say now, like it's it's hard. I would say like don't overthink your portfolio like design right now if you're not a web designer. That's always been my number one thing. I'm not a web designer. I actually hate web design. I
Mm,
find it annoying and stressful. And so like I try and my websites from day one have always been like super sparse and like very minimal, very inspired by like just the most basic website. Like my blog, like from early days, The Brilliance, like
mm,
the design of that blog, the design of all the sites I've had over the years, it's just like I'd be totally fine literally having just like default Times New Roman and then like a bunch of embedded JPEGs as a website right now. Like
yeah.
I just like cut to the chase. Like I don't need like
Yeah.
fancy I don't need fancy stuff because I don't want you to hire me for like the way I designed the website. I just want to
Yeah.
focus on like the work and the information, and then that's it. So
Mm-hmm.
but that's just me. I mean, someone, someone might feel like it's really important that they present their work in a more dressed up way.
Mm-hmm.
So do what you want to do, for sure. I still think at the end of the day, no matter what, it's like trying a lot of different things. Like for a young person, it's like try a lot of different things. Don't be like, I just design t-shirts. That's all I do. Like,
Yeah.
like broaden that. Like that can be
Mm-hmm.
a tactic of a bigger practice. But yeah, just trying a lot of things, getting a lot of interest, looking at work that's different than what you're good at. I love looking at work by art like painters and artists that do
Mm-hmm.
things that I physically do not know how to do,
Yeah.
and work by people that is vastly different than mine because it just like triggers a different part of my brain creatively, and like it's more like intriguing. Whereas when I look at like a graphic designer's work, I start thinking like, oh, how did they kind of break it down? It becomes almost more of like an internalized like educational breakdown process. Whereas I look at
Mm-hmm.
painters work, I might think about how it's done, but I get lost in it a little more than I would like
Yeah.
looking at a peer's like design type of work. So but
Yeah.
I think that's important, just like having a really wide range of interests and types of art
Yeah.
that you like. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's like a pretty base foundation. But yeah, from there, I don't know. I think a lot about college too now, because like not having gone, but my wife is a lawyer, so she went to a lot of school, and having
Mm.
two kids, I'm like, okay, I think the baseline needs to be you're gonna go to college. Like that's what we're gonna just default to. But like if they don't, like who am I to like who am I
Yeah.
to like say? what
Yeah.
you have to. I just hope that they have like some kind of a plan or mission or passion that they want to pursue. And if it involves college, great, we'll be there to support them.
Yeah.
And if not, I will also be there to support them. I hope that there's like a thread that they are excited
Mm-hmm.
about.
Yeah.
But that's advice I can give my kids. Like everyone's different. Some people might be hell
Yeah.
bent on college. I would just say be careful about the amount of loans you take out relative to like what the job market is. Like don't
Yeah.
probably not a great idea to go $150,000 into debt for an illustration degree in 2026.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
scares me a little bit, like a
Yeah.
degree in like fine art for with a focus in like a very specific medium. It just
Mm-hmm.
feels like there's so many resources out there now to like
Yeah.
do it yourself more than ever.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, like, there's value in like in the experience of college that I didn't get. So I don't know. There's just more. It's more forked into many different directions than ever before,
Yeah.
which makes it hard to give a like a blanket answer about what.
Yeah. But yeah, I would echo the fact that like keep things, keep a variety of interests is really the best way to go about it for the future.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, let's wrap it up there. Like,
Cool.
I'm really glad we got to sit down and have a chat and hear a bit more about the story.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always fun to talk, and
Yeah.
uh, I appreciate your support through the years. And I'm bummed that I did see you in person at the Adobe conference, but
Yeah.
you doing like a live podcast thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was on my way out, and I was like, "Oh shit, I don't think I'm gonna be able to go say hi and
Yeah.
thank you." So it was great to get out there, and
No, I mean honestly,
and
it's
I met
nice
the
to be in
entire
this position
product team, as you know. So that was
yeah. Yeah, I was like, hey, Photoshop, no Pat and Chuck Anderson, get him on there. So, yeah, it's nice to be able to put names forward that I think really make an impact on the community,
Mhm.
and especially on the way I work and approach my work. So, yeah, as a fan and as like a peer, it's been amazing to sort of follow your career
Oh, thank you. I
and
appreciate it.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
grateful that I feel people still might, would care about the stories. And, honestly, like one last thing I would say is I've only recently started thinking about this. Like, and it's not because it literally isn't at all because it seems like this is the type of content that like does well on Instagram. But I was like, I have a lot of stories and
yeah,
I've shared them in like kind of really quick like speed rounds, like in interviews like this, where I didn't get
mm-hmm,
like kind of deeper into a specific project. But I have a lot of like kind of pretty interesting stories about clients and about
mm-hmm,
experiences I've had. And when you go to my like Instagram right now, you'd see like a bunch of like kind of current work I've done, but you may never have any clue I did Windows 7 or Lupe
yeah,
Fiasco or whatever. And I've been like, man, maybe like it might be a good like time right now to like reflect a little bit, but like
yeah,
strictly to just like tell the story about like how the project came about, talk a little bit about it and like share about it and just be a little more like one-on-one.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I've
Yeah,
thought about
I mean that's the thing is like that's why I really wanted to start this was to get like more details on those things that popped up. I knew they happened, but like I want to know more about the context of how it came to
yeah.
be and how it impacted, your sort of path. So yeah, I'd love to see more, deep dives into your sort of history. It'd be great.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've got so many bit here in my studio. I have like this big loft space up here, and between that and at home, like there's a area in my basement where I just have like bins and bins full of like every magazine I ever did work for, I have a
yeah,
copy of.
yeah,
Every like product, t-shirt, bag, purse, like jacket item I ever had worked on with a client, I have at least one of, and
yeah,
it's just sitting there, and I'm like, man, this is like a mountain of like stuff I could like kind of uh,
yeah.
unearth and like talk about.
I mean, just like you're saying, where it's like you want to have that stuff represented on your website still. Like, I think it
Mhm.
still shows relevance.
Yeah,
Um,
it
that
just tells like the bigger picture of like the art
exactly.
of
Yeah.
like, I feel like it's cool to see someone like me who's been around now for a while and like the context of like, and as someone who kind of came up like on the internet, versus like a graphic designer who came about in like, pre-internet 90s kind of thing. Like I was really pretty ground floor on internet. It's interesting to like be
Yeah.
able to look at the stuff I'm doing right now, like actively today, and then look at the work that I was doing on the same outlet, like on the internet from 20 years ago, and like draw the connection and
Hmm.
be like, oh, like, he's kind of hasn't changed all that much. Like the work's hopefully gotten more refined and more interesting or more, this or that, the other, but like I still see the same person
Yeah.
in the work from when he was 18 to
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And so like that maybe is kind of like the the main like crux of what I would love to like figure out how to showcase in like a fun way is like kind
Yeah.
of the through line through it all. Like when you
Mm-hmm.
asked about the color earlier, it's like kind
Yeah.
of that's kind of cool to me. It's interesting to
Yeah.
me.
Because yeah, I mean
Yeah,
that's how I view your work. Like I can still see the early days stuff, and now, and I see that same artist like represented that whole way through.
cool.
So yeah, I
I
encourage you to
appreciate that.
like dive into that.
Yeah, yeah. And just
Yeah.
stuff like that. I mean, I guess like to leave people with like one thing, it's like I feel like an endeavor like that has to really be kind of for yourself. It's almost like I love archiving. I save everything. I still have like all the old project files from like I've had this year is the 20th anniversary of a couple different album
Mm.
projects that I did. And I've had two different record labels in the last month email me to see if by any chance I maybe still had layer files. And I was
Oh
like,
wow.
I got you. I do.
I mean, there you go. Like, I'd love to see the layer files in some of those projects. Just break those
Yeah.
down. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny because you open them up and it still loads. It's still right there. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
still the same type of layers that it was all those years ago. And so, you just have to do those things for yourself. Like treat it like you're just building kind of your legacy. You're building your archive in some
Yeah.
organized fashion, and not doing it on any type of tight timeline. Because if I were to
Yeah.
do that, like, what's my rush?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just like just do it on your own timeline when it's ready. Put it out there and do it for yourself.
Yeah.
And you know, that's yeah, that's kind of it,
Oh
I guess.
well. Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
hopefully I get around to starting it one of these days. It's a
Yeah.
hard,
I mean, you
it's
say
like I
like
feel like a mountain,
deviating to
That's the
different
problem.
projects. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But well, cool, Luke. Thank you for
No,
the
I appreciate it, man.
appreciate it and wish you the best with the new endeavor here,
Yeah.
and look forward to seeing who else you get on.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. I'm gonna try and start inviting people that maybe I don't have such familiarity with, so I can,
mhm.
learn a bit different stuff. But yeah, I'm lucky to have a lot of people in the industry that are friends who do some amazing work. So
Mhm.
yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for making time
Cool.
for me.
Yeah, yeah, my pleasure. Let me
Awesome.
know. Let me know if you need anything else from me, and we'll happy to send it over and yeah,
Yeah,
get you.
sick, cool. Thank you, man.
All right,
Have a
take
good
care.
day. Bye.
You too. Bye.